Sean, if we can start with a bit of team news, please. How's the squad looking ahead of this one?
Yeah, good. Johan comes back into the thinking. He was physically fit last weekend, but he'd had 2 days training a number of weeks, so we made a call on that one. But he comes back into the thinking. He's had a good week's training. Drinky's back on the grass, but not with us yet. He's with the physios, so we'll have a longer period of recovery. Dyche had a dead leg, but I'm hoping and expecting that he'll be okay. So pretty good at the minute, actually.
So have Goodmanson back as an option then. What does that bring you? I mean, he's been so good during his time here and usually offers you something different going forward as well.
He's looked fit and well this pre-season, particularly in the early part of the season. Very unfortunate to get a niggly injury. He offers what they all offer in different ways. The quality, the performance levels that we want, all of our wide areas, and Jeff's been out there as well, obviously last week and the second half of last season, done very well. We want that mixture of qualities that they bring, and I think all of the players, of course, but all of the wide players have different qualities. The four main wide players, I'm going to include Jeff in as a fifth because he's so good at operating in different positions. But I think the four main wide players all offer something different. I think that's a good weapon for us, whether they start or whether they're coming off the bench.
You've had a bit of time to reflect on it now. I'm sure you've watched it back as well. That performance against Norwich and the victory, that looked like a good, solid Burnley display. Are you pleased that your players are getting back to the basic things that you're good at and obviously more as well?
I think the pre-season's done us well with that. I think, the players have looked fit and sharp, and I said, during pre-season and at the end of it, there's the fire in their eyes to go and perform. Now, obviously, when the real whistle blows, so to speak, you've got to perform then, and I think we have done more or less. We had a bit of a blip second half against Brighton, but I think other than that, the performance levels have been good. Being the greedy so-and-so that I am, I think we probably deserve a couple of more points on the board because of the performances, but we all know how hard it is to get points on the board in the Premier League, so there's a balance to that as well. And I think last week was a good kind of show of when we get it right collectively, and we've been close to that all season, but I think that was a really strong show of it, and I think we've got to maintain that, of course. One of my biggest things with the players is that the last one doesn't owe you the next one, so we've got to make sure we're clear-minded and ready to go again against another promoted side.
I read as well about you saying that the way the team were performing and functioning defensively, you were very, very pleased with that, getting back to some of the things you've been good at. That's been such a solid part of your success as well.
Well, I think the way the team operates, you want them to defend and attack as a team, and I think there was good signs of that. I think the flow we had certainly in the first 30 minutes from pressing and passing and playing was just about as close to what we want as we can get, if you like, as a visual. And then defensive structure of the side was very good in the latter part of the game when they probed and tried Norwich but didn't really open us up, and we looked like a strong side defensively. And it's very difficult, even as dominant as we were in the early part of that game, it's very difficult to do that in the Premier League for 90-odd minutes. So that the opposition are going to have a spell, or us in our case, even when we play some of the bigger, powerhouses of the division, there's likely where you're going to have a spell, to have a chance to get something from the game, and you've got to go through them spells and know how to handle them. And I think we showed that against Norwich, and I think we've shown that so far this season, that balance of how to handle it when it's not quite your day, down at Brighton particularly, to still get a point. And I think that's one of the things I'm looking for the players to continually mature with in the Premier League. It's that know-how and that knowledge of how the Premier League works. A lot of it's subliminal learning. It comes just from doing it. It comes from just from being out there and experiencing it week in, week out. And I think some of our players have grown with that, and some sort of naturally adapted to it anyway, but some have grown with that and continue to do so. And that's another important factor, not just the obvious side of getting a win, but just that way of dealing with the Premier League and understanding it. And I think we continually look for the players to grow within that, and I think they are doing.
Have you seen a difference with Chris this week after his goals? You've spoken already this season many times about how you were pleased with the way he was playing, but for a striker to get those goals, has he had a bit more of a spring in his step this week?
Yeah, I think all strikers want to score goals, and he knows. I think him and Barnes, they've got the shirts at the minute, but they know that J-Rod's training hard and training well and trying to affect games when he's coming on. Vids has popped up. I mentioned it last week. Lately, looking sharper. There's a big challenge in that striking department. It's probably helpful for them that I not always, but I often go with two strikers, so that's helpful if you're a striker. But we have adapted it with a man in behind as well. Usually with Jeff playing in the whole goal sort of in behind the strikers. So, you know, they know there's no guarantees, but I think the demand is high in all areas of this group at the minute, but particularly in the striking department. And I think Woody did, supply 2 goals, but a very good performance in general, I thought. And particularly in the early stage of the game, you know, and that's important. You know, you want to start right. You want to put the kind of front foot, as we call it. You know, you want to be on the front foot and deliver as a team. And often when your strikers are operating, that gives you a better chance of doing so.
Looking ahead to Aston Villa, what's it going to be like facing Tom Heaton?
Yeah, different kind of thing with Tom. You know, I'm pretty good at these sort of things as regards emotionally. You know, there'll be no emotion during the game, but before, maximum respect for Tom on and off the pitch. Great fella. My first ever signing, of course, here for the grand total of 0. And then, you know, he's been a brilliant servant. And after the game, full of respect again, but during it won't really cross my mind. It never does when I'm playing against old players and players we've played against. Players we've had here. It never really bothers me, that sort of stuff. Other than tactically, you know, if you're looking at a different viewpoint. But no, not emotionally. But he'll know that. I'm sure of that.
Have you faced a player that you've had this much emotional baggage with, so to speak?
There's no baggage, that's for sure. It's all good stuff. Yeah, well, loads of them really down the time. You know, with Charlie Austin and Trips and Shaq's back in the day, and there's been loads of different players who have moved on and we've played against them down the years. So yeah, I mean, there's full of respect, and I'm sure the group will be. But like I say, during the game, that respect goes out the window because we want to win.
Clearly on the pitch, Nick Pope's done a great job of stepping in for Tom in the past and also this season as well. In terms of around the place, the type of character that Tom was, James Tarkowski said before that he still sort of feels his absence a little bit because he was such a big personality around this place. Have you noticed that?
No, he was good. He was good on, like I say, on and off the pitch. Around here, doing the work in the community department and helping out with what the club stood for, and on the pitch. Obviously, all players inevitably are judged on the pitch. We all know that. But I think it's a nice little package when they work, and they operate around the group that you've got, and also into the bigger picture of the club. And I think we're good here as a collective for doing that. I think the community department have got a good link with the players here, and I think it's right statistically we do more than any other club in our community, and I think that's a valid part of the role now for the player, and he was certainly one of them, Tom. That's for sure. Excuse me.
Sorry, Sean. And when you sort of like are lining up against a former player, do you ever speak to your players about how they feel about facing them or anything like that, or is it just business as usual?
No, they can work it out for themselves. I'm sure there'll be a bit of banter on the WhatsApp group or the WhatsApp group, and I'm sure they've tried to re-include him in that and fire a bit off on him. But I think everyone that worked with Tom will have nothing but respect. And like I say, it's only the 90 odd minutes where that goes out the window because it has to, because we've got a job to do and we want to win the game.
And Aston Villa generally, have you seen much of them at the start of this season? What have you sort of made of?
Well, I think it's an interesting one. I think their model's different to the other two sides that have come up. Certainly, considerably different to our own. When you think, I think I'm coming up for 7 years, and I think we've probably, brought in about 500 million quid in that time, and I think we've got a net spend of about 70 odd, and still got obviously what we've got in the building. So when you think they've spent allegedly, I don't know the exact number, but 100 plus million in one summer, it's a different model, that's for sure. I think that in relation to the teams that have come up, I think kind of Sheffield United have gone that kind of mid-ground, put some money in, and then Norwich are probably the ones that are sticking more with what the sort of group is. The reason I'm bringing that up, I don't think there's a guarantee. I think it's tough. You go into the Premier League, you get promoted into the Premier League. It's tough. Whichever way you do it, whatever way you look at it, you've got to mould a team. That team's got to grow. It's got to learn how to play in the Premier League. It needs to win games. And it's a story of a season rather than the first part of the season. So I think it'll be interesting to see them over a season. I'm only concerned myself now, with the immediacy, which is to play them. But I think, over the season, it'll be interesting to look and see whether the investment's paid off. It hasn't. See how the other teams are doing, and get a view of where it's at. And one thing I know, or I think I know about teams that are promoted, having, done it twice, is with that first year back, the early part of the season, you want to just take everything on. Win or lose, you just keep with the mentality to take every game on. I think they'll have that. Over the season, it's whether you can stay with that mentality, because it gets harder as the season goes on. There's no two ways about it. The emotional side of it, the play, every game feels enormous when you're new to it. Our players and myself and my staff are a bit more rounded to it now. You never quite get, it on lockdown, but you get more used to it. The feeling of the game, the ups and downs, the ins and outs, the media and everything. The early part is exciting. It's new. It's fresh. The challenge is not going beyond this game now is the challenge of a season. I think that's the biggest thing that they'll have to adapt with, and the other teams promoted. Our challenge is to keep building on what we've done. Our challenge is to make sense of last year, which I think there's strong signs we are doing, and go and deliver better than we were doing. I think there's strong signs of that too.
Talking about taking things on, when you've seen Aston Villa this year, do you think maybe they've actually deserved more for some of their performances, because they've had a few decisions gone?
I think the problem is that, we all probably think we deserve more. We certainly think we deserve more. I thought we were very strong at Arsenal. I thought we were very strong at Wolves, and they got a last-minute penalty. I think everyone does. You can't help but. I don't think we did early last season, just giving a view of ourselves. But I think Aston Villa will have their claim to deserving more. All the teams do. And I think that's just the psyche of it. You always look at the things that could have beens and would have beens and should have beens, and decide the ones that you convince yourself were almost really there, until you see the score sheet and you think, well, I didn't get them points. But it's a strange thing. It plays with your psyche sometimes. The one thing I know is facts are facts. Whatever that score is, you've got to park it and move forward. And we've shown a strong sign of doing that. We've got to continue to do it. The last one doesn't know us the next one. Good performance against Norwich means nothing when the whistle blows this weekend.
And before I'll let you move on to the others, what did you make of Tarky's debut on Question of Sport?
I didn't see it. I didn't even know he'd been on it. So that's news to me.
James Tarkowski's been on Question of Sport this week. You might want
to brilliant.
Yeah.
How did he do? Did he fare well? I think he was good.
Right. Yeah,
good, well done. I've held my hands up before to that. I have been invited and I've had to refuse because my knowledge of other sports is so poor that I thought it'd just be embarrassing. I think I'd do okay with football. I don't even think I'd be amazing at football, as in knowing people and things like that, and moments and history and goals and stuff like that. I do well to remember Burnley's, let alone anyone else's. But no, I'm pleased. Tarky did very well, I believe. Good.
Yes,
I saw it. I thought he gave a good performance, a rounded performance.
Thank you, Sean.
Pleasure.
Sean, have you been in touch with Tom since he left?
I have since he left, but not in the build-up to the game. I don't think that's appropriate. I've never done that with other players. After the game, I'll speak to him. But no, I spoke to him and kind of, left him alone for a while because he's got to settle in there. He doesn't need me speaking to him all the time. But I spoke to him at some length when he first, well, obviously in the build-up and then when it happened, and then again, a number of days later when it had all calmed down. Excuse me.
No surprise to you that he's doing well there already?
Yeah, I mean, he's a very, very good keeper. We know that. And it was one of them. It's this job that we're in. These links, these performers you've had. Sometimes the business side of it works for everyone, and I think that was all it was. I don't think there was a dramatic thirst for him to leave. I don't think there was a dramatic thirst for us to lose Tom. It was just the fact that all the business things that needed to be right were right, and so there's certainly no bad feelings about the situation. And I certainly look forward to speaking to him in due course after the event. Only from down the years, played against him many years ago, and dealt with him a couple of times through management things and that sort of thing. But he's working hard himself to get the right results. First time in the Premier League, you want to show that you know what you're doing, and the only way you can do that is through your team, or often the only way you can do it is through your team.